welcome to our first webinar of 2024. So today's topic is volunteering abroad during spring and summer break. Spring break's coming up very quickly and summer will be here before we know it. So, we're going to share what you could be doing during that time, how you can volunteer abroad, the different options and opportunities that are available, and why we recommend it. So, my name is Anshu Lee. I'm part of the team here at IVHQ, and I'll be your host for today. And joining us from our programs team are 5 of our volunteer travel experts. So we have Claire, Kayla, Scotia, and we have Ash and Lena joining us today as well. So they will be telling you about the recommendations, different projects that are available, and they will also be available to answer your questions throughout towards the end. So today we're going to be covering what and who are IVHQ, just for any of those who are sort of coming across us for the first time, why you should volunteer with IVHQ during spring and summer break, some of our top recommendations for spring break and for summer break. And then we'll also be covering off unique opportunities for teens. So that involves summer camp programs that we have available, as well as some independent travel options for 16 and 17-year-olds. And then we'll also be covering just general options, including traveling with your parent or guardian or as a family. Then we'll have an open Q&A. I think we've actually broken the Q&A sections down to each section, so we'll be able to go through some of those then. And then we'll be telling you about the fees and how you can apply. So let's kick it off. Who are IVHQ? Well, as it would say in the name, International Volunteer Headquarters. We're a volunteer travel organization and fully hosted volunteer experiences all over the globe. We've actually recently been awarded the world's #1 rated volunteer travel organization by Go Abroad. And we have also been the top provider for Go Overseas for 5 years running. So, it's not just taking our word for it, because these are external sites that also say that we're the top provider. And our Trustpilot score has always been excellent, with over 1,400 reviews. So you can, trust us at what we're doing. Now, you have options to travel to volunteer from 1 to 24 weeks. We have more than 40 countries around the world that you can choose from, and all over the different continents. And we have approximately 300 projects at the moment. So why should you volunteer with IVHQ? Well, there's a ton of different reasons. Not only are we award-winning, which is obviously a great reason in itself, but we've sent over 134,000 volunteers all around the world since 2007, and these are some of the reasons why. We've got, as I mentioned, 16 years of experience. We always vet our programs, we check in on them, we know exactly what's happening, we're there to support, and we've probably come up with a lot of your questions and have the answers for you before you even have those as questions. We also work directly with local organizations and support the causes that you care about the most. So making sure it's an ethical way to give back, while you also get the opportunity to immerse yourself in the local culture and live like a local. There's no age limit, which is something you get questions on all the time. So we have volunteers of all age ranges, and whether you're 18 or 81, you'll meet like-minded individuals from all over the world who become friends for life, and sometimes even family. And our programs are super affordable. So they start from as little as $20 a day and include accommodation, meals in most cases, airport pickup, local support 24/7, and so much more. You also get unlimited changes to your trip, but that's for most of our programs. There are some exceptions to the rules. So volunteering abroad during spring break. Well, why would you volunteer abroad during your spring break? So spring break tends to fall around March or April. It's about a week, and if you're very lucky, you might get a little bit more time than that, which, that's great for you. So we have opportunities that you can volunteer for a week. So you can, still have what you would consider a typical spring break experience, where it's exploring a new destination, whether it's something that you want to go and relax by a beach. We have beach destinations, whether you're wanting to go do a bit more exploring and seeing local natural wonders, whether you're wanting to sort of see some of the hotspot tourist places. We have tons of different options, and a lot of them have one-week opportunities. So you can still get the spring break experience in a short time, but also while you're making a genuine impact. And immersing yourself in local culture, meeting like-minded individuals, as I mentioned, and taking that well-deserved break. So you might be asking or thinking, where can you go during this time? So this is where I will be passing off to our experts who have joined us. Claire, Kayla, and Scotia will take over this part, and they'll be telling you about the different destinations that they recommend. Bear in mind, we have loads of opportunities, but I'll leave the guys to talk to you about it.
Hi, so I'm Scotia. I'm one of the program managers here at IVHQ. And one of the recommendations I have for spring break is our Cambodia program. So our Cambodia program, there are quite a variety of different projects that volunteers can take part on, and you can choose one that would suit you and your interests. There is a 2-week minimum duration for some of the projects, so things like animal care and childcare, and also the weather over the spring kind of season is actually one of the best to travel around Cambodia. So November to May is some of our best times to travel through Cambodia. So yeah, we'd love to have you join the Cambodia program.
So my recommendation for the spring break is Jamaica. Like Cambodia, it has a great variety of projects, so you can do sort of like community-based teaching or special needs and get involved in business development. And there's also animal care, so there's a little bit of something for everyone. For our Northern Hemisphere volunteers, especially in the US and Canada, it's typically, quite easy to travel to, which is great when you've only got these short breaks. And of course, you're right beside the beach, so you can't complain about that.
Cool. I'm Kayla. I'm one of the program managers here, and my recommendation is our program in Cusco, Peru. This is one of the programs we've been working with the longest, I think since 2008 or 2009, and we have 11 different projects in this destination, both community-based. We've got some medical projects, and we also have some sort of remote projects that are more immersion-based projects, which is really cool. Really opportunities there. What's great about this program is that it can facilitate programming for solo volunteers who are under the age of 18 with guided support from our local team. So it's a really great option for teens, for families, for solo mature volunteers. It's a nice variety, and the local team in this destination is fantastic as well. We also have a slew of incredible activities available for like spare time. So things like Machu Picchu, Rainbow Mountain, those are always huge draws. So yeah, it's one of my favorite destinations, and I highly recommend considering it.
I would also add that I would recommend that one too. I actually was lucky enough to visit towards the end of last year and managed to see Machu Picchu for myself. So 100%, it's really easy to sort of get there once you're in Cusco, and Cusco itself is an amazing city to sort of really experience the culture, as Kayla said. So that's, spring break, obviously, like they sort of, the team sort of just covered 1 or 2 options. And we do have a few questions that have come through earlier, which we'll get to just after this section. And again, if you have any questions, please put them through in the chat and I'll ask the team for you. But also you can volunteer abroad during your summer break. Now, summer break is actually obviously a longer time that you get off. So typically between June to August. And because we have opportunities where you can volunteer for 1 to 24 weeks, you can go for a longer period of time. We do get a lot of questions, around how the difference between sort of going for 1 week versus going for longer. And if that's something that, you're interested in, then we highly recommend volunteering abroad during the summer break. Summer is also one of our busiest times. So, it's very important to sign up sort of sooner rather than later, as summer is a time of year that you're looking to volunteer abroad. But again, the sort of team will cover off various options and reasons why. So Similar reasons, obviously, to volunteering during your spring break. You can immerse yourself in local communities. The really awesome thing about doing it over the summer is that you can probably do a few more projects. You could spend a week in one project, another week in another project, destination, or you could join a couple of them together because you're free for a longer period of time. And of course, again, you can still have that summer vacation sort of feel. Your volunteering hours aren't the entire time that you're there. It's only a small portion of the time that you spend there. So you do have a lot of free time to actually explore while you're in a different destination. So I'm going to pass it back to the team and let them talk to you about their top recommendations, and then we'll get into some questions.
My top recommendation for summer breaks is Romania. So that's one of our programs, obviously, within Europe. I really love the program in Romania because, a lot of our other ones are based in, really big cities that are quite big tourist hubs, whereas the Romania program is based in a place called Mikuryachuk. It's only got about 42,000 people there. So it's a real opportunity to see what it's like to live in Europe. You really are immersed in the local community there. And again, they've got a great variety of projects for the summer months, and they're both, impactful for the community and as well as, the local animal shelters and things like that. We've got an animal care project. And the great thing about this location is that they have a summer camp project. So obviously the kids have got their school break, but in order to help keep them entertained so the parents can continue working, which is crucial for them, volunteers help with summer camp. So it's run by the local team. It's all outdoors. You get to do sports, arts, crafts, a whole lot of other activities. And you really get to connect with the community there and get to know those kids that you're interacting with. As well as that, Mikuryachuk, the area, it's a Transylvanian part of Romania. So there are so many big castles. Dracula's castle is not too far away, so you can go visit that. But there's other ones nearby, as well as that, you can go on some amazing hikes into the surrounding countryside. It just really is a nice way to get to see Europe. And of course, you're not too far from being able to, before or after your program, or even on the weekends, you can still travel to those more major tourist hubs and get to experience that part of Europe as well.
So my recommendation for summer is our program in Kerala in India. So Kerala is one of our kind of, I guess, more slower paced programs. So you do require a lot of flexibility, and it does accept volunteers of all ages. So we are definitely finding, that there's volunteers of all ages and backgrounds that join, and that there are so many different projects that you can choose from, whether that be women's empowerment, you can join childcare, there's teaching, medical even. So there's, the huge variety of projects there. Another thing about Kerala as well, I have been myself. So I have seen it firsthand, like all the amazing things that you can do while you're there. It's quite a coastal area. So, you can go to the beaches during your weekend. You can check out the awesome markets that are there. There's quite a few add-ons. So if you've heard of the backwaters, you can join that add-on there as well. It's a very culturally immersive, laid back kind of experience. As I said, for all ages and backgrounds. So that's my recommendation.
Cool. And my recommendation would be Zambia. It is by far one of my favorite places I've ever visited. Claire's visited too, and we just can't say enough good things about Zambia. It is a smaller program, which is quite nice, and it's based in a small city, Livingston. There's 6 different projects available there, mostly community-based. There is a medical project as well in this location, and they can facilitate programming for families as well as individual volunteers, which is awesome. It's in a really great location to sort of border hop as well. So if you want to do a safari over in Botswana, or if you want to hop across the border to Victoria Falls, and it's less than half an hour to do so. It's quite easy and accessible. And because it's such a small community, in terms of safety, it's a really great option, and the community just really rallies around the fact that volunteers are there and contributing in such a positive way. And they often keep an eye out for volunteers in their spare time and in the evenings when they go into the city center and whatnot. So it's a very, very welcoming sort of familial feeling in that community. The accommodation is great. It's in a very safe neighborhood. It's a beautiful volunteer house that's run by a local family. They don't live on site, but they are very close by, and they're there during the day. So they're always around and available if you need them. And then a huge draw for people going to this location outside of the projects is also what they can do in their spare time. So everything from outdoor adventure, bungee jumping, micro flights to visiting the falls, going on safari, you name it, you can pretty much do it there. There's lots of beautiful small markets where you can interact with locals, and it's just a really, really special place. So yeah, I would highly recommend considering Zambia as your destination of choice.
Amazing. Thank you so much, team. So we'll get right into the questions. I see a couple have started coming through in the chat. So we've had a question around, do you have programs for seniors for different times of the year, or is it only spring and summer?
No, we offer programming to volunteers of all ages year round. So that's the great thing about our programs, is there's often at least 2, if not 4 or 5 start dates in a month, every month of the year. And yeah, we accept volunteers of all ages. So this webinar specifically is, I guess, identifying programs for spring break and summer break, but that's not to say there aren't other options throughout the year. So if anyone does have any questions, we've got a great inquiries team. They're happy to jump on a call with you, as are any of us, and we can answer any questions you have if you're looking to volunteer outside of this time frame.
Exactly. And yeah, if you don't want to put your questions and you'd like a specific response, please email the team at info@volunteerhq.org and somebody will definitely respond. So a follow-up question to that is, do you train the volunteers? So what sort of, I guess, orientation training do they receive once they start their project?
Yes, so volunteers, they are provided with an orientation during the first day or 2 on the program. That pretty much outlines everything you need to know about the program, including a health and safety briefing. There's also information regarding the area and everything like that. In terms of training, this does come sometimes like through that orientation, but it may not be project specific. Volunteers, they are, before you go on a program, you don't, for a lot of them, you don't need to have any kind of experience or like skills or anything like that. But we do recommend, like, once you have applied and then registered, there is a program guide that we recommend reading through, as that contains all of the information you need to know about the program. And then from there, it is kind of a good resource to utilize when preparing for traveling abroad. And then, yeah, during that orientation, as I mentioned before, that one there will kind of elaborate more on that program guide and what to expect. Yeah, no training as such, but definitely come with some ideas as well.
There's often, oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's important to note that at your placement, you're providing support to the local staff of that placement. So they're there to guide you in your day-to-day work. So you would never be kind of, thrown off on your own without having that sort of support. And all volunteers have 24/7 support from the local team in country. So they're always available if you've got any questions or you're not sure what you're doing or anything like that. They're always there to provide you with help.
And the other great thing is that there's often handover materials, because we have such a high volume of volunteers going through our programs on a regular basis. It's a lot easier for us to, say a volunteer finishes and then pass that same placement off to another volunteer who can basically pick back up where that individual has left off. So all of that in terms of, I guess, training or guidance is definitely provided in terms of support on the program.
Awesome. So the questions are coming through hot and fast at the moment, so we'll try and get through as many of these as possible. Another question is if we assist with activities outside of volunteer hours, such as extracurriculars, free time things to do. How do they book it? What options are there? Can we touch on that a little bit?
Well,
Yeah.
let me tell you.
Well,
Yes, there are definitely activities available in most destinations. Well, all destinations in your spare time, but in most destinations, we can help to facilitate that in advance of departure, which is often so much easier to have everything squared away before you leave. So some tours and activities actually fill to capacity, especially during the summer months. So it's pretty critical that you do book those in advance. One example is Machu Picchu, especially since COVID, they've limited and or restricted, I guess, the number of people who can go in and visit that site. So that's just one example of many, but we can assist you in booking all of those pre-departure. It's very simple. Once you've applied for the program and registered, you'll see on your profile, there is an item that refers to add-ons and activities, and you can add each tour or activity that you're interested in to your profile. We simply approve it on our end, and once the payment is received, our local team books that for you. So it's a very simple process, takes maybe 5 minutes of your time, and then it's all squared away by the time you arrive. So you just essentially have to show up to the activity. You can book it in country, but we definitely don't recommend that for these peak season times like spring break and summer break, because things do tend to fill to capacity.
Yeah, and I know a lot of volunteers talk about waiting until they're in country and meeting the other volunteers to book at the same time. But yeah, exactly like you said, for the peak times, we definitely recommend booking in advance. So once you apply, you can definitely see the sort of list of options, and then if you have any further questions, reply to the email and get in touch with your program manager.
Yeah, and we can always reach out to the local team if you're curious about dates that other people have booked onto tours for, so that, if you're not wanting to do it alone, I mean, you'll never be alone because there are typically guides for most of these activities, but we can always reach out on your behalf just to sort of gauge interest in that sense.
Yeah, so on that topic of never being alone, a few questions have come through actually about traveling solo and sort of arriving solo and how easy it is to make friends, and will you feel alone? What's that sort of experience like?
Yeah, so with regard to traveling solo, there is a very, very high percentage of volunteers that do travel with us solo. But yeah, as Anjali said, like traveling solo, it doesn't mean that you will be solo. Like you will have a 24/7 support from the local team. It is a very different experience than just traveling to a place by yourself, which is why we do have that local team there to kind of support and guide all volunteers. Back to what I said before about the orientation, like you will have a health and safety briefing as part of that orientation as well. So, if you are traveling solo, the local team give recommendations and ideas of places to go, places that are safe to go, but also they're like anywhere in the world, you will need to be aware of your surroundings. And there may be places that the local team recommend not going as well, just due to safety aspects of it. As you may have been able to tell during this conversation too, we do have us program managers, we go to these destinations ourselves. So it is, we wouldn't place volunteers where we wouldn't feel comfortable, because we experience it all. We experience the projects, we experience the accommodations, sometimes even some of the activities that volunteers really like to go on. So yeah, health and safety will always be top priority for all volunteers, whether they travel solo as part of a group, part of a family, anything like that.
Yeah, and because you're all placed and accommodated together, you really never are alone. Sometimes you actually might be like, oh my goodness, I need some alone time. It ends up being quite the other end, but we've got volunteers who have met on programs. They go back and do another one next year together. They go on holidays together. So you'll definitely not be alone, and you'll make friends for life.
And some of them get married.
Yeah, we've even had volunteers who've met on programs and gotten married and had little families. But the other thing is that if you're wanting to connect with other volunteers, all of our programs have their own unique Facebook group. So we obviously have a large IVHQ one, but we also have International Volunteer HQ, Zambia Facebook group, or Zanzibar Facebook group. So you can easily search for that. And that's a great way to connect with other volunteers. You've got volunteers who have already been on the program who can provide you with advice. You've got volunteers who might be there right now. And you've also got volunteers who may be there at the same time you're there. So once you've joined those groups, you can kind of have a scroll through, respond to any messages that might already be there, or pop your own message up. That's a great way to connect with others before you even get there.
Absolutely. Now, I just want to expand on the safety and just ask a few follow-up questions on that, because we've had a few come through in the chat about sort of traveling alone in general, and then specifically women or young adults, perhaps 18-year-olds, and different, destinations. We've got some saying about Tanzania or Bali. So sort of, can we talk through, I guess, what we have in place in terms of ensuring the safety of our volunteers, and how they can feel comfortable that we do ensure their safety?
Yeah, sure. So as Scotia mentioned, we've been to, each one of our destinations. We vet them. We've been working with the local teams for a very long time. The area where our accommodation is it's safe areas. They have systems in place if anybody needs anything. They have doctors that they can call. They have hospitals that they can take people to. And as I said, someone's on call 24/7, and in a lot of situations, someone's actually there at the accommodation with you. As well as that, you get a very comprehensive safety briefing as part of your orientation. The orientation is done by the local teams, and the local teams are members of the local community. They've grown up there. They know the place inside and out. So as long as you follow the advice that's given to you, you will be absolutely fine. If you've got any specific safety concerns about any of our destinations, reach out to the inquiries team or reach out to the program manager for that destination, and we'd be more than happy to answer any specific questions you might have about that.
Yeah, the safety briefings are so thorough, and they really provide a lot of reassurance once you're in country, no matter which destination you're joining. And, the local team go into things like neighborhoods to avoid versus neighborhoods that are safer. And that could be said even in the town where you guys are living. So there's always going to be good areas and not so great areas, but we will never point you in the wrong direction. So like Claire said, as long as you're following those recommendations and instructions, as long as you have the contact information of the local team in your phone and you have, the ability to connect with them if there's an issue that arises, you should be absolutely fine.
Awesome. And again, I just want to touch on some of these questions coming through for the under 18s or as a parent. We'll be covering that just a little bit later, and then I'll get to your questions during that section as well. So another couple of questions have come through about how far in advance do people need to book, especially for these peak times. So what would you recommend?
We always recommend submitting your application as soon as you know you're interested in a destination. An application really is just an expression of interest. It allows us to check the availability, answer any questions you might have, and also provide you with any additional information about that specific project, or the requirements that might come with that if you're looking at a medical project or something along those lines. Volunteers do have the opportunity to do what we call pre-authorize when they submit their application, which means that they can secure the place on the program at the same time we process it. That's really, really great when you are looking at last minute. We do have some volunteers who may apply on a Monday to join a program the following Monday, and we can do that for most destinations, but the volunteers do need to be proactive in, getting us the information that we require. But generally, yeah, anytime sort of like 30, 60, 90, we have people now registered for 2025, those kind of long-term forward planners. I said, yeah, we can handle kind of anything from next week to 3 years away. But the most important thing is just submit your application as soon as you know you're interested, so that we can provide you with that information and you can get going and secure your place as soon as you're sure of your plans, so that you don't miss out.
Yeah, and in previous years, we've seen, especially summertime is such a popular time of year, and some of our smaller capacity programs do fill very quickly. So an example would be a couple of our European destinations that are like very, very popular for summer break. They will fill to capacity quite soon, sort of in the next couple of months. So essentially getting your application in as soon as you're sort of thinking about what you're doing. We can always look at changing your dates if something doesn't work out for some reason. We have lots of flexibility in terms of changes to be made, but yeah, we would just hate for you to miss out on something because of a capacity issue. So yeah, the sooner you can do that, the better.
And so with, I guess, capacity for some of the projects in mind, if a volunteer does sort of join a program for 1 or 2 weeks and then decide they want to stay a bit longer, is that an
Yeah, so that is definitely an option for a lot of our programs, but it would just be subject to availability. So how it would kind of work is that if you, for example, you applied for 2 weeks, you were in country and wanted to extend for another week, this can be arranged. The volunteer would just have to talk with the local team directly. The local team would then check availability on the placement and also in the accommodation as well. So all of those logistics would be, through the local team once a volunteer is in country. Yeah, certainly possible.
Awesome. And now, how important is learning the local language, and are there any sort of specific language requirements for these projects?
For a majority of our programs, no, there isn't any language requirements in place. I mean, of course, anything you can speak, it's a great help, and even just saying hi, bye, it shows the local community that you've made an effort to learn about them and immerse yourself in their community. We do have some projects where the language may be required. That is some of our medical projects. So you just need to have a look at that. And some of our NGO support or things like that projects, there is a language requirement purely because you're assisting in the communities that don't have access to English. Obviously, all the other volunteers will speak English and the local teams can speak English. And for 99% of the time, there's one person at placement who can speak English. And the circumstances when there's not, you have a member of the local team who'll come with you. If there is a language requirement, we do note that as part of the volunteer requirements on the project page. If you submit your application and you don't note that and it is a requirement, we'll just change you to a project that's similar but doesn't have that requirement. And as I said, you can always make changes later if you increase it. And for all of our Latin American speaking countries, they have Spanish language lessons that are available for volunteers. So it's an immersion experience while you're there, and it's an opportunity to improve or begin speaking a foreign language.
And even if there's not language lessons available, some of our destinations offer homestay options in terms of accommodation. And that's a really great way to learn the language informally through your host family. And on the flip side of that, they love it when volunteers come because they can in turn learn to develop their English. So it kind of goes hand in hand. So yeah, there are formal options of learning the language and informal options. It just depends on the destination.
Awesome. We have had a couple of questions surrounding homestay accommodation specifically, and just sort of what the process is in terms of getting them and making sure, background checks and that it's safe to stay with them. So can we touch on that a little bit, please?
Yes, so with regard to homestays, these homestays have been vetted by our local teams. And again, that is something that, the local teams, they monitor, they are, aware of, they have been there. And with regard to the program managers as well, when we go and visit these destinations, we're also looking at these homestays too. So if there was homestay accommodation available in that specific destination, just know that it has been vetted by the local team. Many of them, the example I can think of is Nepal. Like, we have worked with some of those homestays for years and years and years. So as Kayla said, like, it goes hand in hand. Like, they love learning English and about volunteers, like their own countries. And it is a really good culturally immersive experience, and it is a culturally immersive experience while also being safe and knowing that you have somewhere comfortable to be accommodated.
And part of that vetting process for a lot of our local teams, outside of like doing a background check, essentially is a pretty intense interview process. And they do, a lot of our teams do some mystery shopping. So they'll send somebody to stay at an accommodation and, you know, just to make sure that everything is as we advertise, as we say it's going to be. They do fairly intensive, interviews with these families and are consistently, usually on a weekly basis, if not more frequently than that, checking in with volunteers and these families to ensure everything is going well. So they have these processes in place. Like Scotia said, we've been working with some of these families for 10, 15 years. So they are very much well-versed in the needs of volunteers and how to support them. If there were ever to be an issue, we would address it immediately, but it's very rare that happens. So, yeah, we're very confident in the homestays that we offer.
We also ask all volunteers to complete a feedback once they've completed the program, and some of the questions are related to their accommodation. And they also receive an email from IVHQ during the first week on the program, like just checking in, how's everything going? Is there anything we can help you with? So, you know, if anyone has any questions or anything like that, whether it be about the project, the placement, or the accommodation, like I said, that local team is there to provide them with 24/7 support. And they're the best people who can help out in these situations. They need to know if someone's feeling uncomfortable or something doesn't feel quite right. And if they don't know, they can't make a change. But yeah, they're very, very quick to act, but that happens maybe 1% of the time.
Awesome, thank you so much. And then I think just one final question before we sort of get on to the next part. We've had a couple come through around the impact on the volunteer project. So, you know, how do we know that they're valid volunteer opportunities and they're actually contributing to the local communities that people are visiting? You know, what sort of activities can people be expected to do on the volunteer projects themselves that actually make a difference?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's something that's very, very important to IVHQ. So, you know, anytime that we're working with local teams and we're setting these programs up or we're doing our visits to them, the most important thing is making sure we are making an impact in the community where we are. We're not taking paid employment away from other people in the community as well, as a very important aspect. We ask all of our local teams to kind of collate information throughout the course of the year, and we print our impact reports on our website. Ivana's just linked there our 2022 one. We're currently working on the 2023. It's only the 1st of February, so we'll hope to have that up before mid-February. But yeah, you can be assured that that's something that is very, very important to IVHQ. And we are certified B Corp, which means that we are externally audited by B Corp to make sure that we are making a difference in the communities that we work in, and that it's not just kind of, you know, we say we are, it's actually measured and metriced, and we have to pass that certification frequently.
And it's so clear in the feedback that comes through to us. We review all feedback that comes through, and you can see some of the testimonials from previous volunteers on our website. I mean, we can all speak from personal experience visiting these programs. It's such a profound and life-changing experience to go and see what's happening on the ground. And you know, we often get bogged down with emails and phone calls on our side of things, but to be able to go and see the impact and the children and the, you know, the community members and how well received the volunteers are, it makes us all so proud to be part of this organization. So yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that.
It's why we do what we do.
Absolutely. And then you can also check out our various social profiles. We share tons of first-hand volunteer stories, including, you know, images and videos that they share with us from their experiences. So that's not, you know, sort of us going and showing what we've seen. That's the volunteers who are actually experiencing the project, same as you would be, sharing their stories, their words, their pictures, and we make sure that's on all our social channels as well. And if you haven't, you should also sign up to our newsletter, because we share a lot of inspiration, stories, up-and-coming projects. Yeah, so make sure you are signed up to our newsletter to get all that firsthand. Okay, thank you so much, guys. We're going to have to get on to the next section, otherwise this will be another 2-hour session. So thanks, Claire, Kayla, and Scotia. let's get into the next part. So now a lot of questions that come through, but obviously, volunteering opportunities for teens specifically does vary slightly from just general adults. So, you don't have to wait until you're 18. And if you're a parent of a 17, 18-year-old or even a younger child, we have plenty of opportunities for you. So yeah, why would you volunteer with IVHQ as a teen? So, the themes have been coming through so far already. We provide safety, provide that safety and support before you get into country and while you're in country. There's contacts there 24/7. People around if they need to ask questions, or just as a parent if you want to check in with them as well. There's definitely opportunities there, but it's also very affordable. It's also a great learning opportunity and a wonderful way to make friends. Again, if you have some questions throughout this next section, pop it in the chat. I will go back and ask some of the ones that came through earlier that were relevant, as well as some of the ones that came through via the form. And another thing to note is that almost 20% of our volunteers are teenagers. So, again, we've been doing this for 16 years. We are here to make sure it is we're providing as much support and opportunities for your teens and for you as a team as possible. So I'm going to pass it over to Ash and Lena, who are popping up on the screen now, and they're going to be covering some of the really cool options we have with summer camps, some independent travel options for under 18s, and then just some general options for teens or people, families. So Ash and Lena, take it away.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Lena. I'm one of the program managers here at IVHQ. Actually manage the Costa Rica program. So I visited this program last year, and I can tell you the experience I had there as well. In July, we're gonna be offering a summer camp for volunteers age 16 and 17 there. So it would be a great chance for those of you that are in those ages, and it's going to be your first time volunteering abroad on your own, for example, and your parents are still a bit nervous about you going abroad. This is a great chance because it's a fully supervised experience. There's always going to be an adult with the group. And the great thing about Costa Rica is that it's a really short flight from the US if you're there, or from Canada. The temperature all year round is pretty comfortable, like should be around 71 Fahrenheit to 81 Fahrenheit. So that would be 22 to 27 Celsius pretty much all year. And the locations we're offering for this volunteer team camp are going to be San Jose, which is the capital city of Costa Rica, and Manuel Antonio, which is on the Pacific coast of the country. So if you join us for either 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you'll be able to see the two locations, but you can join from 1 to 3 weeks. We work with a very experienced local team there in Costa Rica. We've been partners with them since 2008. So we're fully confident on their experience. We know who they are. We work very closely with them. All the homestays where the volunteers are going to be staying have been vetted by them. These families have been working with them for many, many years, and they love to host our volunteers. When volunteers leave, there are even some tears, like the families really miss them, really bond together with them really well. And they're going to treat them like their own children. Like Costa Ricans are very, very caring, very affectionate. So they will be in great hands for sure. And the other great thing about this project is that all the services are covered. You don't really have to worry about anything. They're going to be picked up at the airport. Their accommodation is covered. Their volunteering activities are going to be arranged, and they are going to have a lot of free time activities during the day as well. Scuba diving, zip lining, volcano tours, salsa lessons. So it's a mix of volunteer work and fun, and it's fully supervised, and there's going to be an adult counselor at all times with the group of volunteers. Moving on to our other teen camp experience this year, which is also going to be running in July. This one is going to have a fixed duration of 1 week, and it's going to be starting on the 8th and 22nd of July. and it's going to be based in Puerto Rico. So also great weather. It's in the Caribbean, so it's going to be hot and nice. And the project is based in San Juan, in the capital of the country, which has access to beautiful beaches, also has lots of historical significance, and is one of the oldest cities in the Western Hemisphere, which is really interesting. Lots of history there. And the project is gonna be a set schedule for volunteers who are 17 and 16. So in the mornings, typically there will be volunteering in different projects. It's going to be a different initiative every day. So it could be related to environmental conservation. They are also going to be doing some community work, which can go from revitalizing community spaces, doing some light construction work in community centers, also helping the homeless population there in San Juan, doing some food distribution, and supporting some fundraising campaigns. There in San Juan, the volunteers are going to be hosted at a dorm-style accommodation. And it's really similar to Costa Rica in the sense that everything is going to be covered for them. Airport pickups and drop-offs are covered, their accommodation, their 3 meals a day, all the activities are going to be covered, so you don't really have to worry about anything. It's going to be all scheduled for you. And for the activities that they're going to be doing in the afternoon, they can expect to be doing some game nights and movie nights just to socialize with the group. There's also going to be some chances to do some snorkeling. Just go to the beach because you'll be spoiled for choice in San Juan. And just doing some visits to historical spots there in the city.
Awesome. We're going to get into the independent travel options as well. So I think Claire is going to cover Zanzibar, which is actually perfect because I believe there's a question that's come through about teen wanting to volunteer in Zanzibar. So take it away, Claire.
Yes, Zanzibar is a great option for 16 and 17-year-olds who are wanting to take part independently in Africa. Zanzibar is a separate program from our Tanzania program, even though it's kind of in Tanzania. So it's the small island off the coast there. And volunteers there can get involved in conservation work. So whether it would kind of be coastal conservation, so they work with doing some turtle conservation work. They also do work on beach cleanups and seaweed and monitoring of all those sorts of things. And then we also have a rainforest conservation project where volunteers actually get to go and stay just inside the rainforest there. So it really is kind of two very different projects in the one location, one in the forest and one a 2-minute walk from the beach. All the accommodation has someone who stays on site with them 24 hours a day. The meals are all provided there, and there's lots of things to do there on the weekends as well. And again, volunteers generally do all these sorts of activities together, and they've got great guidance from the local team as well.
Okay. My recommendation for teens traveling and volunteering independently will be Guatemala. We also have a very experienced local team in this destination. They've been working with IVHQ since 2010. And in there, we will have volunteers who are age 17 and 16 accommodated in homestays. So again, they are fully vetted. We know who they are. They're not going to be strangers to us. Are usually very experienced hosting international volunteers, so they would know what they're doing. It's not going to be their first time doing it. And we have most of the projects we offer in Guatemala welcome volunteers that are under 18. So they could participate in our childcare projects, just working with underserved communities that usually cannot afford childcare services for their kids. There's some environmental initiatives as well, such as our eco-agriculture conservation project, where volunteers will be able to participate in coffee farming, learning about organic and sustainable practices, We also have construction and renovation projects that take care of just revitalizing community center spaces and schools and get volunteers to do some light construction work and painting there. And also teaching English is also one of the projects that our team volunteers can join, as long as they are comfortable with teaching people of all ages, because we serve the whole community. So they could even teach people of their same age, even adults. So as long as I are open to that, it's also a project that we can offer there. The project is actually based in Antigua. So it's a small town in Guatemala that you might have heard about. It's really famous, welcomes international visitors all year round, pretty safe for Guatemala standards. So we're really comfortable and confident on sending our volunteers there. Our local team has an office there where volunteers can just go and hang out. And if they need anything at all, our local team is going to be there on the ground. And in terms of free time activities, there's tons to do in Antigua, volcanoes all around Antigua that you can hike and visit. And the local team itself organizes free time activities for volunteers as well, such as cooking lessons, dancing lessons, and they offer the Spanish lessons as well at an extra cost. Another recommendation we have for independent travelers, independent team volunteers, would be our program in Lima, Peru. So this option would be one of the most affordable we have in Latin America, so that's a great plus. The cost of living is really affordable there. And so it's our program fee and all the logistics we organize there for you. And these projects in Lima are very impactful. They are focused in an underserved community in Lima. So volunteers there really see they can make a difference through the work they are doing. And they can choose to work for animal care projects, which take care of bringing stray dogs from the streets and rehabilitate them and get them ready for adoption. Childcare centers, they could do some community work, which is a mix of projects like working in soup kitchens, women's shelters, running sports programs for aftercare centers, and also doing some construction and renovation work for community centers and schools. And there, the accommodation is going to be at a volunteer house. And volunteers can expect to share their room with no more than 3 people of the same gender. And the good thing about these destinations is that our local team will be traveling with our volunteers every day to the placement, which is not the case for many of our programs. So it's great for young volunteers. So they will be supported all the time. There will be someone with them going to the placements every day. And it's also great for free time. Like Lima has a lot of things to do, being the capital of the country. Tons of restaurants where you can try the famous Peruvian cuisine. It's close to the coast, so the seafood is really fresh and beautiful. And during weekends, volunteers can also visit Machu Picchu, like the famous ones in Peru, Machu Picchu, Rainbow Mountain, or could also go surfing in Lima itself, visit some of the ruins which are in the city, or some of the historical sites within the city.
Thanks, Selena. Hi, everybody. My name's Ash, and I am a program manager here at IVHQ. And I'm very excited to share some of my recommendations for independent 16 and 17-year-olds. So as per the slide, Sri Lanka is my first recommendation. It's an amazing program for 16 and 17-year-olds. They want to travel independently. The local team there are really hands-on. They can organise any excursions for a reputable tour provider. Once you arrive, a really cool thing about our Sri Lanka program is also it offers an optional introduction week. So it's a way to kind of get over the initial culture shock and also just gain a deep understanding of the Sri Lanka culture before you start your actual volunteer placement the following week. And on this week, you to do cool things like visiting temples, monasteries, language lessons, cooking lessons. And I think there's also, you get to experience a traditional Sri Lankan massage. So that's pretty cool. I've actually been to our Sri Lanka program, and when I was there were definitely like 16 and 17-year-olds on the program, and it was a really, really social program, and the volunteers were all having a great time. The projects there are offer lots of different types of work, so anywhere from like turtle conservation to teaching, and we also recently have added a women's education project, which I've noticed a few volunteers have been interested in this webinar, so that's a good option. And then my second recommendation would be Nepal. So the Nepal, they have a cute little local team there. They go above and beyond for all of their volunteers. It's a great program to choose as an independent team, as it's actually a culturally immersive experience, because you get to stay with a local host family, and you can have peace of mind knowing that your whole itinerary can be booked pre-departure, as a Nepal program actually offers amazing add-ons, and these include like jungle safaris, there's an Everest base camp trek, yoga retreat, paragliding, lots more. I've been to the Nepal program twice as a program manager, and I felt really, really safe as a solo female traveller, and I got to do the jungle safari and paragliding. It was really, really awesome. The project there, the local community was so appreciative of volunteers being there, and the work they were doing was amazing. So it was really cool to see. And then my next one would be Thailand. So this is our program based in Hua Hin. This program is actually really, really popular with our independent 16 and 17-year-olds. And it's Thailand, obviously, as a country, is very cheap. So a small budget, which obviously is the case normally for 16 and 17-year-olds, goes a long way on this program. So yeah, if you want to make your money last, this is a great location to choose. The program has flexible start dates, so starting every Monday, and similar to Sri Lanka, it offers an introduction week. So jam-packed of cool activities like cave excursions, language lessons, cooking lessons. There's a Muay Thai lesson, which is pretty cool, and it's based on in a coastal town, which is obviously in Hua Hin. So if you're a beach lover, it's a great option for you. I actually lived in Thailand for a year when I was younger, and I found the Thai people to be like some of the friendliest people I've ever met. So as a young volunteer, I can assure you that you'll feel very safe and welcomed by the local community. And then we have got Fiji. So Fiji will host 17-year-olds who want to travel independently, but unfortunately hasn't reached that to 16-year-olds yet. So just to keep that in mind. I visited the Fiji program a few months ago, and there were several 17-year-old volunteers on the program. They were having a great time and actually mixing and mingling with volunteers of all ages. There was I think she was in her 70s, and she was having a great time with the younger volunteers as well. So it was really cute to see. The projects there are amazing. So we've got like construction, childcare, teaching, and there's a sports education project as well. That was really fun. The kids there are really, really, really cute. And the good thing about Fiji is that obviously they all speak English really well. So, you know, as a young volunteer and you're a bit nervous about the language barrier, Fiji is a really good option to choose. Similar to Sri Lanka and Thailand, Fiji also offers an introduction week. And again, you do that prior to your volunteer placement, so your first week on the program. And activities include like visiting the national sand dunes in Sigatoka. There's a weaving class, which I was really bad at. Some of the volunteers were made beautiful bracelets. You get to hike to a waterfall, cooking class, and there's a trip to Pacific Harbour, and that's just to name a few. There's lots and lots of cool activities on the introduction week. Cool. And then last speaking point would be about just traveling in general, if you're traveling with a parent or guardian, or it could even be a friend, as long as they're 18 and you have a guardian consent. So that's obviously a great option for younger travellers who want to give back to a local community in a developing country, but not quite ready to travel by themselves. We've got lots and lots of options for you. So the majority of our program destinations actually allow volunteers under 18 to join if they're with a parent, friend or guardian who's at least 18. And some great options include Zambia, South Africa, Morocco, New Zealand, Kenya, Argentina, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, lots more. And then we have obviously lots and lots of families joining on our volunteer programs, which is amazing to see. It's such a cool experience to share with your loved ones. And my recommendation for some great family programs include Bali is always a popular one, Costa Rica, Ghana's really cool families, Laos, Romania, Sri Lanka, Zanzibar, and Zambia. Obviously another popular one. But yeah, again, lots and lots of different options. So if something hasn't been mentioned here in this webinar and you're interested to see if it would suit you as a 16 or 17-year-old independent volunteer or as a family, just in general, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to provide you with recommendations suitable for your what you're interested in.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Ash and Lena. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of information downloaded today as well. So, as we mentioned, the webinar will be available afterwards, so you can refresh yourself. And our website, volunteerhq.org, is a great resource. All of this information is available on there. And if you just want someone to directly answer your questions, please feel free to, again, email our team at info@volunteerhq.org. There have been a couple of questions come through, so I'll just sort of go through one or two and then we'll wrap things up with final questions. So somebody asked about do you have to go out during the weekend, or can you just stay at the accommodation or in the local area?
Yeah, sure. So no, it's your free time, so you can chill at the volunteer accommodation. Typically most people there'll be always someone there, because I guess we have volunteers going for lots of different durations, like from 1 week to 24 weeks. And some of those volunteers that have been there for a while sometimes do just like to chill at the volunteer accommodation for the weekend and don't always have to leave and go traveling. But just important to note that your program fee does cover your accommodation during the weekend, covers, for the majority of programs, covers your meals and things like that too. So if you want to just hang out and chill after a hard week of volunteering, that is more than fine.
Awesome. And what about team volunteer options in Cordoba, Argentina specifically? Do you have them?
Good question.
That's come through in the chat. Just double check that one. But then also in terms of the family volunteering, people have been asking about sort of the age range of the kids as young as 5-year olds. Do we accept sort of 5-year-olds with their families? How young sort of as the minimum age?
Yeah, our minimum age would be 3 years old if they're coming with their family, of course. But it also depends on the type of project you choose. So definitely ask us what would be the best options for you. If you already have a destination in mind, we'll be able to recommend you an option. But in general, we would say that childcare projects and animal care projects and construction and renovation would be the best for families with young kids, because it allows them to participate fully in the project and the tasks that they are expected to do as a volunteer.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And another question that we had in the chat was around if a family could do sort of travel together but do different projects. Is there an option?
Yeah, definitely. On most programs, that would be no problems. Some of our locations, projects are split up into different locations, but majority of our locations that we no issue at all. Obviously, the children of the family would just need to be with one of either the mum or the dad, one of the adults, to ensure that they're supervised.
Awesome. So we're going to start wrapping things up. Thanks for answering the questions, Ash and Lena. Let's get into it. IVHQ fees. Okay, so obviously we've talked about affordability, but what does that actually cover? Claire, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Anne Shirley. So to take part on an IVHQ program, there are 2 fees that volunteers are responsible for. This is, as you can see on the screen, the registration and the program fee. These are 2 separate fees, and they cover 2 different aspects of your time on the program. The registration fee is what you pay when you want to secure your place on the program. Not only does that secure your place on the program, but it covers all of your pre-departure support from IVHQ. So pretty much everything from the day you found our website and submitted that application up till you get on the plane and you're on the way to the program. You've got your program guide, which you gain access to as soon as you're registered. And as we've discussed, that has everything you need to know about your program. It introduces you to the local team. It's got their phone numbers, it's got their email addresses, it's got what to pack, it's got information on the visa, it's got information about your project, the sort of impact you'll be making there, the type of work, and so much more. It really does cover everything that you need to know. You also gain access to exclusive opportunities to get flight quotes and travel insurance quotes. And of course, you've got your program manager who is dedicated for that destination. You know, it's been out, has seen it, and can answer any questions that you, your family, your parents, anyone else might have along the way. And then you have your program fee. The program fee is effectively what covers the cost of hosting you in the destination. That one's not due until 30 days before your start date. So it's a great option when volunteers want to, secure their places now with that smaller registration fee and then have that larger program fee later. The cost of this one does vary depending on where you're going because it's based on the cost of living at each destination, as well as how long you're going for and sometimes what project you're planning to take part on. But that's what covers your airport pickup when you get there, the orientation you take part on your first day, the accommodation, meals. The meals are specifically available at each destination. That information is available on the project page. So if you've got any questions about that, have a look there or get onto your program manager. And as I said, in that 24/7 support that's provided by that local team, that really is the wraparound of the whole services.
Amazing. And now, obviously, since everyone's super excited and ready to sign up and get there over spring and summer, what is the application process and how do they sign up?
Yeah, so everyone's found our website. So that's step 1. Step 2 is to submit the application. So you can do that by going to the project page, or there's buttons just on the right-hand side of our website where you can just submit your application there. We also have an opportunity for volunteers to contact us if they're not quite sure on what they want to do. So you can either send us a message. We've got live chat on the website. And you can also send us what we call an inquiries form, kind of list where you might want to go and what you think you are interested in. And we'll send you back some recommendations. You can also just pick up the phone and give us a call. We're available 8:30 till 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, New Zealand Standard Time. But our phone lines are available 24 hours a day. So you can always call, leave a message, and we'll get back to you when we're back in the office. And just so you know, if you do submit your application online, as I mentioned earlier, it is free. There is no cost associated with that, and it's an expression of interest. If you apply for one of our programs, but then actually you see there's another destination you're more interested in, it's not a problem for us to just change your application over. It's easy as that. We just need to know the changes you need to make. Once you're sure of your plans, you've got all your questions answered, that's when you secure your place by paying that registration fee. And as we mentioned, if you're looking for those summer months, we do recommend applying and securing your place now so you can move forward with the rest of your planning. And, as I said, as well as changing your application while you're accepted, we can also change your application once you've registered for the program. Things change and we understand that. So we can move volunteers anywhere up to a year from their earliest registered start date. So allow that flexibility if something does change at home or at school or, one of many things that can come up along the way.
Easy. Thank you so much. And that is all the time we have for today. So again, if you have any questions, you're welcome to email them through to info, or all the information is definitely available on our website, volunteerhq.org. Thanks again, Claire, Kayla, Scotia, Ash, and Lena for joining us and sharing your recommendations and answering everyone's questions. And everyone have a wonderful day, evening, morning, wherever you're joining us from today. Bye.